Hello folks, and welcome to Paddock Pass, your post-race edition for the 2019 Singapore Grand Prix, and that guy is back on the top step of the podium. It is 3 wins in a row for Ferrari. But it's not the driver on the top step of the podium that we had come to expect, or that indeed we did expect this weekend after taking a scintillating pole position here yesterday. Charles Leclerc led the race, and many expected that he would still be there at the end of the Grand Prix. He looked to have Lewis Hamilton well under control in second place, with Sebastian Vettel in third. Opening gambit of the race, Charles is slowing down the field, about 13 seconds off the pace. It always happens here. You've got to try and look after those soft tyres for as long as you can. That was certainly the plan, we understand. Anyway, then the team, as Charles started to push to open up the gap, pitted Seb. Seb came out, and when Charles took his stop, he came out behind Sebastian. It was a Ferrari 1-2, and Charles, in his strategy, ultimately ended up beating Lewis, which was theoretically the strategy that they had in place for him. But a lot of answers that man has to give today to Charles Leclerc, who not for the first time this season is finishing a Grand Prix feeling that he's had his opportunity taken away from him. Third place, not Lewis, not Valtteri, actually Max Verstappen was hugely disappointed after qualifying because he didn't have the pace that he expected, and he expected to have the pace to fight not just for a podium but for a win. Still disappointed at the end of the weekend, but an unexpected podium for him given how immensely frustrating and difficult qualifying had been. Your top 3 then, Sebastian Vettel back to winning ways, Charles Leclerc, as you're going to hear, a little bit disappointed, and Max Verstappen, not full of joy after a weekend that he'd expected he'd be fighting for the win. 3 Ferrari wins in a row, a Ferrari 1-2, big win for you. Must be pretty good today.
Yeah, I'm pretty happy. So obviously it's a long race, difficult to remember everything right now, but certainly, starting with the last lap, it was good crossing the line first.
Talk about the last lap. What about the lap coming out of the pits? Because you had to nail that out lap to make the strategy work.
Yeah, I mean, I wasn't quite sure, how hard we need to push. Obviously, I was giving it everything. It was quite a lot more grip on the fresh tyres. We were maybe a bit afraid of the warm-up, but it was a huge step forward in terms of grip compared to the used soft tyre from the beginning. It was very difficult. Obviously, we were going very slow in the beginning, and I was expecting to have more, in the tyres still when we started to go, when Charles was starting to go a bit faster. But yeah, obviously I got the call very late, just before pit entry, and then we boxed, and I knew that, anyways, today my race really comes alive in lap 1, which I tried to pass Lewis, didn't quite work. And then as soon as I get the call for box, to try and do everything I can on the outlap, which obviously was the decider. But after that, it was still a long way to go. I wasn't sure whether the tires will make it. The safety cars didn't really help me, because I was trying to get a cushion between me and the people behind through traffic, which worked by just slicing through a bit quicker, in order then to protect the tires and look after them after that. But then the safety cars, destroyed that strategy. But yeah, it's always the risk you take.
It's a bittersweet feeling. Obviously, I'm extremely happy for the team, for the 1-2. Disappointed on my side, because obviously I stick to the plan. I slow down in the first stint for the other guys behind to not be able to pit. Then we started to push, and I did not expect Sebastian to undercut me. But at the end, it's part of it. I think the decision has been made for us to do 1-2. And if that's the explanation, and if they show me that this was the only reason for which we took this decision, then I will completely understand, because it's for the good of the team. But in the car, it's frustrating, of course, on my side.
After the disappointments yesterday, is a podium a nice surprise?
It's positive, yeah. Of course, still you want to win here, but to finish on the podium from fourth, you gained 1 spot. That is always positive.
And what did it tell you about the car, about the team, the battles you were able to have with the Mercedes, keeping them behind, and with the Ferraris as well?
Pace was all right. I don't think it was anything special, but again, we scored a podium, so that's positive.
If the debrief at Ferrari is going to make for interesting listening, the debrief at Mercedes could be even longer and even more interesting. They came into this weekend expecting to bounce back to the front, expecting to bounce back to fight for the win, and Lewis ultimately thought he could have done that. But the team flat-footed themselves on strategy. You're about to hear from Lewis, who finished 4th. You're about to hear from Valtteri, who finished 5th. And both of them are, I'm not going to say furious, just I think almost perplexed as to exactly what went wrong today. Hamilton was calling for the team to pit him. Everyone here knowing how strong the undercut would be. Valtteri ultimately left completely helpless because of the team's sort of agreement that whoever is leading and whoever has the right that weekend gets to choose the strategy and who pits first. So he was just left waiting, knowing that if they just called him in, he might have had a chance of doing something. So a huge frustration from both drivers today. 4th and 5th for Mercedes. Any other team, it wouldn't be the end of the world, but for these guys, it kind of is. Hey, Lewis. Not the weekend Mercedes wanted.
Nope, unfortunately not, but we've still got some points. But of course, moving backwards today, we really had the pace to win the race and it just didn't work out for us.
Obviously, the undercut was predicted to be a pretty strong undercut here. Was there any thought to try and cut it in a little bit earlier, or were you always going to be reacting to what Ferrari were doing?
No, I don't know if you heard my radio, but I was saying let's undercut. So I don't really have an answer for you why they didn't pull me in, but we win and we lose together as a team. And today wasn't great. We just have to try better in the next one. But it's not good.
Sounds like a big debrief coming.
Yeah, definitely.
Where do we start on the debrief for Mercedes from this weekend?
Well, for sure we put ourselves today in this position because of the poor qualifying, and all the mess we had on the outlaps in the qualifying. So poor starting position. For sure, lots of things to review. I think from my side, maybe it would have been possible to do something better strategy-wise. If the focus would have been just on me, but obviously we have 2 drivers in the team, and when we stopped, obviously Lewis was ahead before the pit stop, so that means always for us that whoever is front gets the priority. So that's why I couldn't really undercut him, and it's going to be the same if I'm in his position next time. So that's just how it goes, and for sure that's annoying to be in my position, but that's life. But I mean, I felt strong. The car felt good. Could always be there when needed, but there was just no chances today to do much.
With Max Verstappen, an unexpected 3rd for him, Alex Albon came home in P6, another important race for him and a long time in the car just to get his feel into it as well. It's worth remembering it's only his 3rd Grand Prix in this car, so steady points from him, even if still not quite there on pace with Max Verstappen. Alex, well done. Another points finish for you in the Red Bull. Talk us through the race for you today. It looked, certainly for the opening sector, like you were really sort of finding your feet and keeping up with the rest.
Yeah, I think everyone was managing their tyres. And then in that middle stint, I kind of wanted to get past Valtteri, but they were not playing games, but holding up me so how Lewis could get in front of me. So I just spent pretty much the whole time behind Valtteri, and then he pushed at the end. He definitely had the pace on me, but it was just one of them races where I was just staring at a rear wing the whole time.
How tough is it out there to get close to people, to make a move, even if you have a pace advantage?
Yeah, I mean, even when we boxed for the softs, I think we had like a 2.5-3 second gap advantage to the guys in front of us, and it's difficult. It was good fun though. I enjoyed it. I was hoping that was opening up opportunities to overtake, but didn't quite work out.
The continuing story and fight between McLaren and Renault for P4 in the Constructors' Championship took a turn for the better for McLaren after Daniel Ricciardo got sent to the back of the grid for his MG UK infringement in qualifying, because it meant that Lando Norris picked up a place, and also both of them were sandwiching that one Renault of Nico Hulkenberg, and sandwiching is what happened on lap 1 between Hulkenberg and Carlos Sainz. Sainz into the pits at the end of the lap, and there for almost a minute. Day over for him, and just immense frustration of what could have been a great day. Lando Norris, though, plucky throughout, came home in the P7 that Carlos might have seen as his birthright, had that first lap contact with Hulkenberg not taken place. So still maximised it, still got the best that they could out of it in P7, but with only one car in the points, not quite as good a day as they could and realistically should have been hoping for. P7, that's what it should have been all along, right?
Yeah, it would have been much nicer if I started there and could try going forward, but no, I think starting 9th
already made one place overnight, which was good. Good start to the race, and this guy Carlos got a bit unlucky with getting hit by Hulkenberg, so frustrating for the team as we could have had double points today. But from my side, I'm happy. I think I couldn't have got 6th. I tried hard on the restarts to try and get the tyre temp up and have a chance at trying to push Alex into a mistake, but he didn't, so fair play to him. But I'm happy with 7th. Nice to have a clean Sunday, a clean race, and a good weekend altogether.
Not the result you wanted today. How tough was it?
Tough to take it, no? Because we were such an easy P7 after the start, just attacking Albon, trying to get him a bit out of position into turn 5, closing the door. He was closing the door. I tried to go around the outside, and suddenly, as I was preparing the exit there, suddenly I received a touch, damaged floor, puncture, 1 lap down, 1 minute pit stop, and I saw myself in a very long race in Singapore coming, and we more or less managed to recover even with the damaged floor, and nearly made it to the points, but disappointing because today was a very easy P7.
Danny Kvyat said after qualifying that the Singapore Grand Prix can tend to be a little bit crazy, and he had a bit of a crazy one. Actually, hats off to him. He put his hands up after the race and said, honestly, I had an awful day today. I didn't race well. I didn't overtake well. I was just all over the place and guilty. I actually thought he had a few good fights, but he's taken it on himself and saying, I didn't have a good day. Pierre Gasly had a brilliant day. P8 for him at the end of the weekend, and just all came together for him, as you will be able to see from the big grin and pure joy for the Frenchman. Well done. That looked like a lot of fun.
Yeah, I enjoyed so much, I must say. Races like this are really good fun, and things didn't come all together with the safety car in the middle of the race. But yeah, the last part of the race was really exciting for me, and had some great battles. It just feels really good to score these points.
With a race like this that is so long and can take so many twists and turns, is there ever a point where you feel it coming to you? Are you always unsure of where you are?
At the beginning I was okay, these things are going pretty well for us. Someone told me that someone were running even P2 before the pit stop, which never really happened. I didn't even know that during the race, and then with the safety car, we kind of lost 3-4 positions, so we came back P12, which was a bit annoying. And then, I just gave it everything in the end to pass Kimi. I had a good couple of battles with Kevin and Lance as well. So now it feels good to score these 4 points.
It had been a good qualifying day for Renault, but then Daniel Ricciardo got thrown to the back of the grid because they found his MG UK had a little spurt that had given him an advantage of 1/1,000,000th of a second. But rules is rules, even though it was on like a nothing lap in Q1 that didn't even count. Rules is rules. Starts from the back and had a pretty tricky race, came home in P14. So the expectation was on Nico Hulkenberg. Contact between him and Carlos Sainz though on lap 1 left him in the pit lane at the end of the first tour and thinking this is not going to go my way. Still got his head down, fought his way through. P9 at the end for the German. Great job today. Considering at the end of lap 1 things weren't looking all that pretty, can you be happy with your race?
I guess so. It's hard to keep an overview and to say happy or not happy. It's so eventful, this race, so long as well. Need to go back and just remember everything because a lot of stuff happening, but I guess so. I mean, after that puncture and first lap pit stop, you're always obviously on the back foot here. A lot of traffic during a race, especially with Grosjean in the first stint. That was a bit of a handful, and cost a lot of time, but overtaking, very difficult here. But kept cool, kept patience, stopped in the right moment on the safety car, and I think at least we got 2 points in the end.
Even the Iceman needs an ice bath. And the Iceman melteth, perhaps, today. Contact with Danny Kvyat during the race, leading to a very unhappy Kimi at the end of the Grand Prix. But a very happy Antonio Giovinazzi. Became the first driver to lead a race since 2015 that doesn't drive for Mercedes, Ferrari or Red Bull. Also first time an Alfa Romeo has led a race since 1983. Completely useless and pointless statistics. The only one that matters is Antonio Giovinazzi was in the points again. Very good job. the first non-Ferrari, Mercedes or Red Bull to lead a race since 2015. That's quite something.
Yeah, cool. I am really happy. But I think looking this, I think we could achieve a better result than P10. We extended too much the run on medium. Then I was struggling a lot in the end. Then I touched a little bit with Daniel and I damaged my front left suspension. After that we pitted and first on hard, then soft again. And then in the end, I think we achieved the best result we could. P10, 1 point for me, 1 point for the team. So happy with the result and now looking forward for Sochi.
As we found out after qualifying, the Haas drivers had reverted to different concepts of their car for Saturday and Sunday here in Singapore. K-Mag sticking with the newer spec, Romain reverting to a couple of older spec parts on the newer spec car, bit of a hybrid thing going on. And both actually had their moment during the race today where they looked pretty good, and there were hopes, I think, for both of them that points were on the cards. Ultimately, it all fell apart for K-Mag, came home P17, and for Grosjean, good race at points, as I said, but also scrappy race, got himself into a dink with George Russell. Georgie Russell very, very unhappy with Romain about that, and came home just outside the points in P11. Quite a battling race for you today, and so close to the points.
Yeah, not too far. I think Kevin was doing a great race at the beginning. I think he was in the top 10, and I was struggling more at the back. We tried a different strategy, staying very long on the medium tyres, waiting for the safety car that actually came on the contact with George. And then we came back in the race to the end with the other safety cars, battled as hard as we could, but we just have a too big tyre deck at one point, and the last few laps were a bit emotional.
Talk to me about the incident with George. He's not very happy with you.
Well, I haven't seen the footage right now, so I don't know exactly what happened. It's always difficult from the inside. I think he knew I was on the outside in turn 8. Maybe at the moment in the middle of the corner, his rear wheel touched my front, and then he spun around. So yeah, I don't really know. I haven't seen much, but yeah, I mean, when there's no runner for her, there's nowhere you can go. I was against the wall. And we touched there, so there was no more room for me to go left.
It's not been a great weekend if you're a fan of Racing Point. Not been a great weekend if you are at Racing Point, if we're being honest. Yeah, Sergio Perez dinged it in practice, had to take a gearbox penalty, so started fairly close towards the back of the field alongside his teammate Lance Stroll, who had again failed to get out of Q1, and this was supposed to be a big weekend for them, big upgrade package on the car. Checo, though, didn't see the checkered flag, really gutted because he felt there was a good run on for some points. Lance Stroll finishing P13 again, feeling that he could have had a run for the points, but dinged the wall behind the safety car. So yeah, just what could have been really down here for Racing Point. That was quite a race for you. No points at the end, but certainly a lot to talk about.
Yeah, it was a shame. I hit the wall on the second stint after safety car restart, so that was unfortunate. That was really the main setback. But the rest of the race was full of action for sure.
The upgrades, did they work as you hoped they would?
Yeah, I think we were in a good position to score some points before I hit the wall, so just a shame.
And we finished today with Williams, we usually do, and for the first time this year didn't get both cars to the flag. Can you believe that we've got to Singapore and this was the first time that the teams had a DNF all season? That, I think, speaks volumes about what they're doing and the job that both drivers are doing. And we probably haven't given Robert Kubica enough praise for the job that he has done this year, but I will give him praise today. We'll start with George Russell, though. We've already heard from Romain Grosjean, who believed that, you can't just carry on squeezing a driver towards the wall here because eventually the track runs out and you're left with wall. Is it 6 of one, half a dozen of the other? It's for the stewards. But George was unhappy. I reckon you could have given him a little bit more. It's like a Brexit thing, isn't it? It's like 49-51, 48-52. It's pretty much 50-50. Anyway, let's talk about Robert Kubica, because we know he isn't the same athlete in terms of his physical abilities that he was last time he raced in Formula One, and he knew that this was always going to be the biggest challenge for him of this season. 2-hour Grand Prix, unbearable heat, massively physical circuit, incredibly demanding. And to make matters worse, He injured himself last week. That's what the cut was on his nose and his fingers, and he damaged his shoulder, his left shoulder, which is the more functional of his two arms. He was in incredible pain, and he drove through it, and he was fighting, and I think he overtook Kevin Magnussen properly, like legitimately on track. He was a warrior today. My driver of the day. Brilliant drive from him. Just total warrior. So we're going to hear from Robert Kubica. Hello, Robert. You said yesterday this was going to be the biggest challenge for you of the whole season. Here you are, checkered flag, some great fights. Did you enjoy it?
Well, it was tough. Today we had a quite difficult race with a lot of things to manage. We were pretty hot, struggling to follow the others, then managing the tires. Then actually in the last set, for whatever reason, I just left the garage and I have huge vibration. At 250 I struggle to see. Actually I couldn't see my board on the straight line, so on every restart when there were some sparks going behind the other cars wasn't easy, but I think result is not great, which we know we could expect, but personal goal and personal achievement I think is big. Looking how tough this race is, looking my conditions, and I suffered some small injury last Sunday, so I wasn't 100% and managed to don't do a mistake with a difficult race in such a difficult track. Knowing where I was 2-3 years ago, I think it's one of the biggest of my career, but it remains personal because the results doesn't pay off.
Bloody good drive, well done.
Thank you.
So it is a Ferrari 1-2 in Singapore, but the investigation and the debrief is only just beginning into a strategy that Charles Leclerc was not happy with at all. But if they have got a debrief, Mercedes potentially have an even bigger one. We were expecting it to be Red Bull versus Mercedes, and we've come away with another Ferrari victory and a Ferrari 1-2. Spoke to Seb about this at the top of the show. The press had started to write him off. He hadn't won in over a year. Did he want to be here anymore? Had his head gone? We're all guilty of it. We all ask those questions. And as he referenced and as he kind of spoke about, you can't help but hear those things. You can't help but feel them by the way in which we ask certain questions. Whether this is enough to reignite something in him, whether he ever lost that spark, that fire in the first place, only he knows. But another Ferrari win, and in particular a Vettel win, is a very good thing for Formula One. We go now directly to Russia. That's why the whole paddock is in a mad panic and pack up. Can Ferrari continue their post-summer break streak and make it 4 in a row? Can Mercedes fight back, or can Red Bull take the charge to them both? Can't wait to get there. Thanks for following along. For now, from Paddock Pass, we'll see you later.